In this lesson, we shall be creating our login page. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to first of all open Management Studio. So connect. Okay, so we don't connect. We have connected. We have connected. So let's expand this database.
Okay.
Let's quickly create a table. Say new table.
Okay.
So the table we have the following columns: ID, username,
Okay.
and password. The data type of ID will be primary key. We'll make ID primary key. The data type of ID, let's just make it int. Let's make username n backup. Okay. Did I say username? Sorry, let's make it email address. Let's make it n backup 50. Password n backup 50. Now let's right click and save this table. Okay, let's go to file, save table, let's go on. So let's call this table login model.
Okay.
Login what? Model. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Now let's make this ID, let's make it identity. Let's make ID identity.
Okay.
Now let's go again. This identity is 2.
Okay.
Then we'll go to file, click on save login model.
Okay.
Now let's go back to our application. We can close this one.
Okay.
Okay, this is our application. Let's go to data. Let's double click on data. Don't worry, it's the one that we created the stuff, the table is inside.
Okay.
So we click on infer schema.
Okay.
So it tells you inferring what? Schema.
Okay.
So when you expand here, it's grayed out. Why? Because there are some tables that have not yet come in.
Okay.
So let's bring all the tables in. Checking here will bring all the tables in. So let's click on finish. Now let's go to my applications. Let's click on hotel management app. Let's click on, this icon is for create new page.
Okay.
Now let's click on crop pages. Click next. What's the schema? The schema will be login model. You can see login model. You know where it came from. So let's say login models. Let's say next. Let's say export to CXP, enable search as you type. Let's click next. Click on save. Now let's run our application. Hmm? So now, the first page here, to sorry, the first page we have here is bookings. I don't want the first page to be bookings.
Okay.
I want the first page to be login page. Now we are going to start creating our login page.
Okay.
Now how are we going to do it? First of all, we are going to stop this app. Hmm?
Okay.
So I click on stop. Oh, the app has, the Radzen has stopped. So we right click on Radzen again. Okay. Run as administrator. Hmm? Say yes. Hmm? So double click on this hotel management app. Hmm? What do we do? Now look at this page that says okay. So now add login models. This add login models. I'm going to right click on it and say duplicate.
Okay.
So when I say duplicate, it's going to create a copy of it called copy of add login models.
Okay.
I'll now right click on that copy. I'll go to properties.
Okay.
I'm going to change the name to login. Hmm? Are you following?
Okay.
So I'll click on save. Hmm? Now, I don't want to see this e tag.
Okay.
I don't want to see it. So I'll go to apply. Hmm? Let me click on the text box. Now that's the row. This is the e tag. Now this I want to select the entire row.
Okay.
So I'll click on the row. Can you see? And now I click on the row, I'll say delete. Hmm? Now I'm going to change this one. I'll select this button. I'll go to properties. Hmm?
Okay.
I'll change the text. Are you following? To login. Hmm?
Okay.
I'm going to remove the icon. Hmm?
Okay.
Now, then this required validator message, I'll change the text to email space address is required.
Okay.
You know, that's more human friendly. Do you agree?
Yes.
Then the next thing we want to do is look at this bookings page. Let's right click on it. If you go to properties, it tells you that it is the start page. I don't want it to be start page again, so I will select it and click save. Now let's go back to our login page that we just created. This is it, isn't it?
Yes.
When you right click on it, go to properties. Okay, for now let's include it in navigation, and let's say it's our start page. Let's say save. Are you following? Now then the next thing is we don't want this sidebar to appear.
Okay.
So we will need to change the layout for this page.
Okay.
Now, each of the page in your applications, they use what we call layout.
Okay.
And the layouts, they can be found under this section called layout.
Okay.
Now, there are two layouts. We have login layout. This login layout is meant to be used for login page.
Okay.
And then we have the main layout. You've seen this one, which is meant to be used for other pages in your application. Now, right now, let's go back to login page. Login page uses main layout currently. So you right click on it, you go to properties, and then you are going to change the layout from main to what? Login layout.
Okay.
You click save. Are you following? Now, this is how it looks now at this point. Are you following?
Okay.
Now, you want to add a text at the top so that called login.
Okay.
So you go to outline, select this row, that's the email row, say duplicate.
Okay.
When you duplicate at this point juncture, you now have two email addresses. Now select everything that is here. That's the two columns that is there, and say delete. Are you following?
Okay.
Now copy the two columns that is here. Did I say copy? Cut rather. Cut them. So having selected them, you cut. You right click and say cut. Then you now put them in, paste them in the second row. Are you following?
Yes.
Now go back to the first row, go select it, go to toolbox, drop a column inside the first row.
Okay.
Now go back to the same first row, look for what we call heading. Now drop the heading. Are you following? After dropping the heading, go to properties. Change the text of the heading to login. Now, right now it is H2.
Okay.
Now H1 is the biggest, H6 is the smallest. Let's make it it's H3 right now. Let's make it H2. You can see it's bolder. Now let's go to style. Text align is left. Let's make it center now. That's looking better, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now let's run our app at this point. You know, we've made login page, start page now.
Yes.
So when our app starts now, this page will be the first page that we
Sure.
that we show. I hope I'm making sense.
Yes.
Now you can see this page is now the login page. Does it look like login page or not?
It looks.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Now let's hit login. Validation, Abby. Now, normally, when we type here, it's supposed to say invalid email address. Abby? Then this one is not supposed to allow us to see what we are typing.
That's true.
And then this one, when we click cancel, it's supposed to clean everything. So we are going to do that one now.
Okay.
Now let's validate email address. Let's turn this one to password.
Okay.
How do we do that? Well, we'll stop the app. We'll go back to the page. This is the freaking page. Are you following?
Yes.
So we go to outline. Are you following? So now, you right click on password required validator. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's delete this password. That's the text box. We'll delete it. Bam. We'll now go to text box. Sorry, toolbox. Now I type PASS. This is what I'm looking for. Password.
Okay.
Just drop it after that required validator. So that's the password. Go to properties.
Okay.
Change the name to password.
Okay.
Autocomplete? No. Now that you are supposed to bind it. Okay. You are supposed to bind it. You are supposed to bind it. I will come to that in a moment. Now let's go to style. The width, let's make the width 100%.
Okay.
When we make the width 100%, notice that it extends to match the other one. Are you following?
Yes.
Now, before we go ahead, let's go to the outline again and see what is happening. This is the outline. When I go to page, when I go to events, now we have an event called load. That's when the page loads. Now what happens when the page loads? What actually happens is that we create a property. There are different things you can do in Radzen here. But what we did here is we created a property. We called the name of the property called login what? model.
Okay.
And what we did was we created a new object of the login model class. Are you following?
Yes.
So the name of this object of the login model class is login model. That's what we did. Now you know this login model has three properties. You know, when we created our database, we created three columns: the ID, username, and password. So this login model object has three properties.
Okay.
It has an ID, it has a username, and password. So now, if let's click done. If you look at this email address, sorry, it has email address,
Password.
ID, and password. You can see that this email address text box is bound to the password property. So likewise, when we come here, we are going to bind this password text box. Are you following? We are going to bind it to watch. We are going to bind it to login model dot what? Wonderful. Are you following? Close curly brace. Am I communicating? Now the next stuff we are going to do, we want this required validator to come after that one. So how are we going to do that? Just cut, right click on that required validator, click on cut, then click on paste again. Are you following? So it is now after. So its password is required. Now let's look at the properties. Okay, the component is validating its password. We also need an email address validator here. So that's for the first one. Yes. And there's one thing I don't like about this password.
Okay.
That is, I don't like where it is staying. So I want it to stay under. So how about we duplicating this one? Bam. Are you following? Then we delete this one. Are you following? We delete this one. We delete this one. Then we come here, we cut down and paste it inside that second column. So when the validation happens, it will show under.
Okay.
Am I making sense?
Yes.
Now the next thing we want to do is to put email. That it's just a blank stuff.
Okay.
Now let's go. Let's look for. Let's just type email. Then when you type email validator comes.
Okay.
So let's drop it after required validator. Go to properties. What's the component that I want to validate email? The error message. Let's change it to enter valid email. Enter valid what? Email. Hold on. 1 minute. So now we have validated email. There's still one more thing we need to program. Don't worry about it. There's still one more thing we need to program. How come I'm not seeing it? Okay. It is this cancel button.
Okay.
You know that when we clicked it, instead of it could clean everything that is there, it didn't. So we are going to program it.
Okay.
Now, if you select this cancel button now, you go to events. The events that is there is close dialog.
Okay.
We don't want it to be that.
Okay.
So we'll click on this click event, we'll remove it.
Okay.
We say done. Now, the next thing we want to do is, for now, let's go to this our app. Let's go to show application directory. Are you following?
Okay.
Now, after saying show application directory, now we have opened the server folder. Let's open pages. Are you sure this is the one we did?
This is the second one.
Okay, where is it? Open this one.
Was the one that was
Okay, let's go to that one. How come? Okay, you know what? Let's build the pages. Okay, I know what happened. I just remembered now. Sorry. This is we are working on a WebAssembly app.
Okay.
So I went to look at the wrong stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back again. My applications. Hmm? Let's go to clients. We are supposed to go to clients. Pages. Now let's look for that login page. Hmm? Now you can see this one that says login.razor C# source file. Right click on it. Say open with code. Hmm?
Okay.
So we are going to create a private method. We are going to create what?
Private method.
We're going to say private. Then we are going to create a method that is asynchronous.
Okay.
So private async task. That's. Then we have to give the method a name.
Okay.
The name of the method will be reset for. Hmm?
Okay.
Now, in this reset form, all we'll just do is we'll say login. Let's go back to the app. Let's go to login page. I'm searching for login page. This is it.
Okay.
Now, we have this object called login model, small letter. So you are going to say login model is equal to new models dot condata dot login model. Hmm?
Why is it being capital letters?
Okay, why is the M? Fantastic question. The reason why the M is in capital letter is because now let's go to our server side. We have the models folder. Now for each of the tables in our application, Radzen has created entity framework has created a model.
Okay,
For that last table,
Okay.
entity framework created a model. Let's open it with Notepad. Hmm? So this is the model that was created for that table we created earlier. We are look at ID. Are you following? Look at the email address. Look at password.
Okay.
Now look at the namespace. The namespace. This is the namespace. The full namespace. The namespace is what? Hotel management. The models dot. So let's. If you want to type the whole thing in full, it's supposed to be login model is equal to new hotel management models dot condata
Okay.
dot. We are talking of the fully qualified name of the class
Okay.
that was generated. And what's the name of the class? Because the public partial class, what?
Okay.
Does it make sense now? So this is why I have to write in capital letter.
Okay.
So I'm creating a new object of that class. That's all. So let's say file, then we say save. Are you following? Now, the next thing, we need to bind this method. Are you following? We need to bind it to, because this method is the one that will clear our form. Let me, method to clear, what is that? Check boxes on login page. That's let me put it at the top here. And this method to clear text boxes on login page. Now I need to bind this method to the button that when we click will clear.
Okay.
So the name of this method is reset form. I've copied it.
Okay.
Are you following? So I say copy. Now look at this is the button we want to bind it to. So we select the button. We'll go to events and then we hook that method to the click event.
Okay.
So I will open that place. Then I'll click plus. Now I'm going to select the type of action.
Okay.
Now here we want to run C# code.
Okay.
So I choose execute what? C#. Now what's the name of the code I want to run? Because it's an asynchronous method, we are going to use the await keyword first. So I'm going to say await reset form, semicolon. What we are saying is that when this button is clicked, that it should go around this code.
Okay.
That's what we are saying. So now, I think we are home and dry. The last thing we want to do now is to run our app to see whether everything we have done works well. Okay? So let's click on run. Okay? Now, this is our page.
Okay.
Let me type Ademola. What did he say?
Enter a valid email.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Email address is required. Enter valid email. 2 errors. Abi? Now, Ademola at nigeria.com. How far with our password? Okay. It's okay now, Abi?
Yes.
Now, let's see this cancel. How far?
Trust.
So, we'll continue the lesson tomorrow by creating a link underneath where people who are not yet registered on the portal can register.
Okay. Sorry.
Hold on. What we can do to that is to go back.
Okay.
Let's stop.
Okay.
Let's go to. But I think the thing has started behaving like login page. Have you? What we can do is maybe let's duplicate.
Okay.
But no, I don't want us to duplicate. Don't let us duplicate. Let's delete this one. This we can let's cut this one. Let's put it inside this one. So let's run again. So now Done.
Okay. Okay.
Better, Abi?
It's better this way, yes, sir.
Okay, so on that note, we end up today's lesson, okay?
Okay, sir.